championship final, but Brooke Schultz just barely sneaking in to this championship final, and she'll start it off, the defending champion.
Yeah, the prelims were a little bit hairy, if you will, for her, because who would have thought that she would have had any issues whatsoever? But sometimes in a long prelim with about 50 divers, that's the kind of thing you see, and it can be contagious.
Yeah, you get a lot of time to think, that's for sure. She was 4th on 1 meter yesterday.
And she starts off, everybody's going to do 6 dives, and there's her father, Dale, who's been her coach, and he's in his 20th year, over 3 different stints at Arkansas. But starting off with a dive that you feel comfortable with, confident, and one that would give you maybe a little momentum as you begin your quest for a championship in 6 rounds of diving.
And you saw 7 scores. The top 2 and bottom 2 are dropped. The other 3 added together and multiplied by the all-important degree of difficulty. Here is Vicky Zhu of Kansas.
Vicky Zhu is 26 years old, came in to Kansas at semester in January, and so she only has this semester. She is a senior in eligibility. So she starts off with a somewhat simple forward 2.5 somersault. The degrees of difficulty are somewhere most of the time between 2.4 and 3.1 in this competition. The higher the degree of difficulty, the higher the multiplication factor when you add the judges' scores together.
Gabe Downey, her coach, and her scores from 7 to 8, degree of difficulty lower than Brooke Schultz, so that's why the score was 54 instead of Brooke's 61. Now, Sarah Bacon already has a title at these championships. She took the 1 meter yesterday.
She is really just a picture to watch, and I think she is so smooth. I talked about her on the 1 meter and said smooth as silk. Well, she's continuing that, and the point of the diving is to do all of this acrobatics in the air and find a vertical entry without a whole lot of splash. That's sort of oversimplification, but that's the way it is.
And that's what lay people can look for, do the acrobatics in the air, and find vertical, and don't create any splash. Now, Maria Polyakova of UCLA won both springboard competitions at the Pac-12 championships 3 weeks ago.
She's a Russian diver who's been in many international competitions, and she is very dynamic. She is smooth. Tom Stebbins in his 21st year coaching at UCLA. And she has so many assets in diving, but that is not one of her better entries into the water, even though it's a really pretty dive.
Her scores 7 to 8, a score of 64.4. She was 2nd on 1 meter yesterday, and now Allison Gibson, who was 3rd on 1 meter.
Allison Gibson demonstrates a lot of patience on the end of the springboard as it goes all the way down, flexes, and then comes all the way back up and throws her up into the air. We see Matt Scoggin in his 23rd year at the University of Texas. He was a champion here at Texas before he took over the reins coaching here from the great Mike Brown, who's now a coach at Hawaii.
Good start for Gibson. Now Eloise Belanger of UCLA, 5th on 1 meter yesterday. 6 of the 8 in this final were also in the 1 meter final yesterday. There's more than 70 divers here. The only 2 who weren't in the 1 meter final, the top 2 qualifiers that we'll see in a moment.
She has such a beautiful line about her. Her toe point, her leg stretch. Of course, we look for that in gymnastics all the time and in dance. And it benefits a diver so much because of the overall impression that it leaves with the judges. Look at those toes, look like needles.
Nothing near a miss yet. Lots of scores in the 7, 8, and even 9 range. And for Belanger, Scores 7.5 to 8.5. Now Alicia Blagg, the University of Miami. She's from England, two-time Olympian at the London and Rio Games for her native nation.
She can really jump. She has the power, and again, the patience in allowing the springboard to do what it does best, flexing. It's a flexible piece of aluminum, and look at that flexibility, how she lays her body in two. What a gorgeous dive. The judges judge from 0 to 10 in half-point increments. There's a 9.
Seeing a couple of divers rack up a 9 from a judge or two so far. We got a battle going on. The final diver of the first round is Delaney Schnell, the top qualifier. And Cynthia, you talked about it a moment ago. She's had some mental demons she's had to deal with as far as when she's on the diving board, but when she's good, she is really good.
She is so beautiful to watch dive when she does accurate dives. And I didn't get that mental issue statement. I didn't make that up. Her coach, Dwight Dumais, told me that. And he said, you know, they're working on it. He's in his first year at Arizona. That dive would be considered a little bit deficient, short of vertical, not quite in that 8 range that we've seen so much of in the first round.
That would be the lowest scoring dive, not by much, only by about 12 points in that first round. So 1 round down and 5 to go. Brooke Schultz in second place after 1 dive. Her first dive score 61.6. This one a higher degree of difficulty.
Oh, nice. She looked like she really had her radar, maybe sonar on and finding vertical. I think her dad likes that one as well. You know, there's so much to this takeoff. You want to get right on the tip of the springboard and start the somersault on the way up by throwing your arms down. There's so many technical aspects to doing these dives well. And she does a ton of them in that particular dive.
That was the highest scoring dive so far of the 9 dives performed in this championship final. Now Vicky Zhu of Kansas, who was 8 points back at the leader after 1 dive.
And Vicky Zhu, I talked about her being a senior and only having 1 semester. She's in the middle of her first semester at Kansas. She's from Guangdong, China. And she's been in a number of international competitions, the World Series specifically for China. And so she is a veteran in a lot of ways, even though she's never dived in college until this year and only has 1 year or this semester of eligibility because of her age, 26 years old.
Sarah Bacon yesterday defended her 1 meter title. Last year she was 8th on 3 meter. The year before 6th. Was behind by just 4.5 points after 1 dive.
Oh, that is really nicely performed. She's quite tall. I don't know exactly. I don't have that information. Maybe you do over there, Rich, on her height. But to spin with her legs straight and pass the board with proper distance is a chore within itself, and she does it beautifully. What a nice dive. And it's high degree of difficulty, 3.0.
And her score 69. That is the highest scoring dive so far in this championship final. Now Maria Polyakova of UCLA, a member of the Russian national team since 2011. Didn't compete at NCAAs last year. She was 5th on 3 meter in 2017 after back-to-back 4ths the previous 2 years.
Oh, I thought she had the dive, and then she ducked her head just slightly going in the water and just over-rotated just a little bit. Let's see if we can see that right here, right there, going a little bit past the vertical spot.
Scores from 6.5 to 7.5. Not bad for Polyakova. Scores 66. That certainly keeps her in the hunt. Nobody pulling away as of yet. Allison Gibson in 5th place after 1 dive. dive, but only 6 points back.
Just so much talent, and every one of these women have been in international competition before. But this is so different if you've never been a part of a college team, because if you have a big swimming team and they are all rooting for you, you have to figure out how to deal with that kind of possible pressure when you come to a competition like this that is combined with swimming points.
Because
I think
Cynthia,
they rise to the occasion, though.
Yeah, and they're combined in duels and such, tri-meets, but typically the swimmers aren't watching the divers do their thing there. Now, everybody's attention is on the diver tonight.
That's right. Sometimes in a dual meet, they're diving at the same time the swimming is going on. So everybody's doing their own thing, so to speak.
And occasionally even in a different location.
That's right. A different pool. There's a diving well, and then there's the 50-meter or the 25-yard swimming pool. Eloise Bélanger, the senior, having dived internationally for Canada before, and she and Maria Polyakova, both from UCLA, have been in both finals, racking up huge points for UCLA in diving. They've been the only team that has had 2 divers in the finals, in the top 8 in both the 1 meter and the 3 meter this event.
And Bélanger is a strong candidate to be in the final on platform.
Absolutely. She's a great all-around diver. Watching her replay on the monitor.
Make sure to watch tomorrow night on ESPNU, 6 o'clock Eastern, as we'll have our platform diving competition as part of tomorrow night's show.
Alicia Block, I think she is tremendous, and that was Randy Abelman in his 30th year. He gets the prize for having the longevity of all these coaches. He's in his 30th year for the Hurricanes, and she's a 2-time Olympian. She knows what it's like to dive in a huge competition.
All right, this moment won't be bigger than her, and look at those scores.
Oh, wow.
8.5 and 9 for a degree of difficulty of 3, and so she's the first one to pull away from the pack. A score of 81 on that dive gives her a lead right now of about 12 points.
Delaney Schnell does a really good job of getting this dive down. The takeoff so many times determines what you're going to do when you leave the springboard. And you see her knees are a bit apart. The judges might deduct for that. The knees apart, the feet apart, maybe not quite the 8s, but certainly 7s or above.
Top qualifier Delaney Schnell in 8th place. The leader after 2 dives, Alicia Blagg of Miami. 2 dives down, 4 to go for each diver. Alicia Blagg of Miami has a lead by not quite 12 points over Maria Polyakova of UCLA. Polyakova, the runner-up on 1 meter, looking to chase down Blagg as we have 4 dives remaining. And Brooke Schultz in 3rd place, 13 points back with her 3rd dive.
Brooke Schultz is so dynamic.
Her coach and father, Dale Schultz.
And he always says, my biggest challenge is not to overcoach my own daughter. And she knows all about that. And she's like, well, she accepts him for however he coaches her, because he's taught her so many incredible things and brought her to this place, as well as her own talent and work ethic.
That was the 2nd highest scoring dive so far in this championship final. Now Vicky Hsu of Kansas in 7th place.
Whenever you see a dive that scores over 70 points, and Brooke Schultz scored 74.40 points, you know that that's going to elevate the diver among these top 8 that are in the finals. And as you see Vicky Hsu doing a back 2.5, everybody's going to do a back 2.5 somersault in this competition. and there's a little arch in the back as she goes in the water there, and there will be a slight deduction. Most of the deductions are between 1/2 to 2 points from the judges.
It's her second consecutive 63 flat, scores from 7 to 8. And now Sarah Bacon in 4th place, 13 points back, heading into her 3rd of 6 dives. Bacon won the 1 meter competition yesterday on day 2.
She's got a lot of points. Very nice. Her coach, Wenbo Chen, is in his 10th year at Minnesota, and I think he is such a good technician. And he teaches the divers how to use their visual references very well. Where do you look when you unfold out of a dive in order to be able to line it up and go in the water straight? There's Wenbo right there. He was a Chinese national coach, a diver, and also a coach at the training center here when there was a national training center in Indianapolis years ago.
Maria Polyakova of UCLA in 2nd place.
She was so balanced on this takeoff. Tom Stebbins knows that this is a superior reverse 2.5 somersault. And this is one of the difficult dives to be patient on. And she has such good presence of just letting the dive take care of itself when she unfolds out of it. Super. That is going to rival the highest scoring dive that Alicia Bragg did in round 2.
In fact, it matches it exactly, 81 points. Now Alicia Gibson in 5th place with 4 dives.
Allison Gibson getting a lot of support from her teammates, and of course a lot of people here in Austin who are used to seeing her dive. She's only a junior, but she has had lots of great experience. It's her home pool, and she really knows how to ride the diving board. She finishes this dive a little bit low to the water and opens up just slightly prematurely.
7 and 7.5 for Allison Gibson, 66.6. Eloise Belanger of UCLA is next in 6th place. She trailed the leader, Alicia Bragg, the next diver, by 18 points and change after 2 dives.
We've talked about how she is really more accomplished on the platform, but she seems to find a way to make the finals in Springboard. And she was 7th on the 1 meter, and she's always in the finals. It is just a testament to her all-around athletic skills on Springboard as well as the platform. The platform is more of a gymnastic event, and this would be compared more maybe to trampoline and dance on the Springboard. And like you said, Rich, so many divers these days are specializing and not necessarily concentrating on Springboard as well as platform. We find that more in elite Olympic type competition.
So if you have somebody who does both, you're a college coach, you are doing well. Now
You betcha.
Bragg, the leader. Polyakova with an 81 earlier in this round, threw down the gauntlet. Can Bragg answer as we approach the halfway point of the competition?
She needs 8s. Well, not quite. She has a little bit of splashing. You see Randy's not quite as animated and dramatic on this celebration because he knows that this wasn't the dive that she hoped to have to stay ahead at this point in the competition, but it's all very close. And listen, this is only the 3rd round out of 6. There's lots of time. We're not even halfway through.
That will put her behind Polyakova by about 4 points. 207.3 to Polyakova's 211.4. The final diver here in round number 3 is Delaney Schnell. Top qualifier this morning, but in 8th place of 8 divers, heading as we're almost at the halfway point.
And just missing entries once again. The top qualifier gets the opportunity, the benefit, possibly, of diving last. Some people see it as a benefit. Other people think, well, maybe it's not. I love to dive last because I would see what everybody else did before me and know what I needed to do to either catch up or stay ahead.
Some pressure on you as the top qualifier, though. Polyakova now with the slim lead over Alicia Blagg. Maria Polyakova looking for her first NCAA title. And Brooke Schultz of Arkansas right now in third place. She was the 3-meter champion last year in Columbus. And she'll start off round number 4. Her dives have gotten better each time. And all her degrees of difficulty from here on out are 3.0.
This is a very tight contest. When you're looking at less than 10 points between first place and third place, anything can happen. You can make up those 10 points in one dive because of these high degree of difficulties. The middle 3 scores added together, multiplied times, in this case, 3.0. Oh, she makes a little mistake unfolding out of the dive. I thought the hurdle looked good in the air. Looked good on the takeoff. Let's see if her feet are right on the end of the board. Yes, they are. Looks good. And watch what happens. Unfolds early and arches. And that is the reason why she won't score big on this dive.
Scores from 4.5 to 6. 52.5 for Brooke Schultz. She had been in third. That might drop her down. Vicky Hsu of Kansas in 7th place after 3 dives.
Whoa, she really did a good job of waiting to unfold out of the reverse 2.5 somersault. Feet on the end, arms up over the head before she takes off. And that has a lot to do with using your vision, your visual references, also looking at the water before she looks back to see where she's going to go in.
Couple judges 6.5, one judge an 8. Now Sarah Bacon, 1-meter champion earlier this meet, in 5th place right now in 3-meter, 3 dives left.
This was a great opportunity for Sarah Bacon. She doesn't handle the entry quite. I'm seeing possible adrenaline at play here because I think this takeoff looks good. It's way up in the air and she unfolds and you see the splash going that way past vertical towards underneath the diving board, just not hitting the entry solid.
Bacon had hoped for better. Now Maria Polyakova, the leader after 3 dives. She has been close in her NCAA championships career. This is her 7th all-time final. Looking for her first win.
I'm surprised. We get to round 4, just over halfway through the competition, and we're seeing some misses now. In the first 3 rounds, the board work was so beautiful, so much patience, and letting the diving board help them. And this dive, you can see she goes in the water almost piked at the hips.
We don't know if this is the reason, but there's pressure if you're the leader. She won both Springboard camp competitions of the Pac-12s. She had the highest scoring dive, her previous dive. That was the lowest scoring dive. Now Allison Gibson of the Hook School of Texas.
It's one miss right after another. And I've talked about it being contagious before. You see Allison slapping the water a little bit. She knows that this wasn't what she wanted. It had nothing to do with the way she can do the dive. She is an incredible diver with great presence, good competitive skills, and just unfortunate that we're seeing these misses right now in round 4 of 6.
Gibson was the 1-meter champion 2 years ago. Now here's Eloise Belanger of UCLA in 6th place after 3 dives.
This is literally anybody's contest.
A lot's going to depend on the next diver, Alicia Blagg, and what she does in her 4th of 6 dives. But first of all, Belanger, a chance to gain some ground on some people as there have been some misses here in round number 4. More than any diver we see at these championships, Belanger tends to take more time. That's especially true when her heels are dangling off the board of the platform.
When she's going backwards and standing with her heels off. Okay, pretty good. Not one of her best, but pretty good. Tom Stebbins knows that that wasn't a miss like we have seen with those dives that are getting between 4.5s and 6s. It's going to score a little bit better than that and will help her in the competition. 2 rounds to go, and like I said, anything can happen. She's just hanging on to her legs. If she could grab around her ankles more, she might be able to get into a little tighter ball or tuck.
Scores from 6.5 to 8, and now Alicia Blagg, who can take some semblance of control in this competition with a good dive here.
And she leaves that deficient also at this angle, as I put it right across Randy Abelman, her coach's chest. But that's not the way you want to go in the water. The angle that you want to enter the water, of course, is straight up and down. Contagious. It's an epidemic.
As good as the first 3 rounds were for everybody, the 4th round has been a struggle. Lowest score in the first 3 rounds was 6.5. And our lowest dive score in the first 3 rounds was above 50. It was a 54. And that's the total score for the dive. We've had 39, a 45, a 49.6. Delaney Schnell of Arizona in 8th place, heading into her 4th of 6 dives.
Again, not a total hit for high scores, but not a miss either. Delaney Schnell did a good job on this. She has every asset in the world, and if she learns how to control whatever it is, I'm not going to say it's her nerves. I'm not sure about what plagues her when she gets into a competition and maybe is the top qualifier, but she is capable of winning on every board.
Maria Polyakova still has the lead, a slim lead over Alicia Blagg, but with 2 rounds to go. Alicia Blagg, who had been the leader after the 2nd round.
This is good and bad, because people that weren't in a good position after 3 rounds could be in very good position right now. It's a 5-point contest. Brooke Schultz being in 2nd, starting this 5th of 6. Good back 2.5 somersault.
1st to 6th place, just a 17-point differential. Now that's remarkable.
It is amazing. And you see the 3-meter springboard, 3 meters off the surface of the water. So that's about 10 feet off the surface of the water, and of course, lots to do before you hit the water off of that springboard.
The defending champion with a good 5th dive. She'll have 1 more. She's put herself in position. Nikki Shu of Kansas in 6th place, but again trailing it by only about 17 points heading into her penultimate dive.
Oh, that was not a good unfold come out from the dive. Her feet were flat. It looked like she was going to land on her stomach. You're going to see this right here as she gets ready to go in the water. She unfolds a little bit early, but watch the feet right there. Flat, 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 and break in position. The knees being a little bit squiggly and bent. That is a big miss for her.
And that all but knocks her out of the competition. Now Sarah Bacon in 4th place, but trailing it by just 10.5 points, heading into her next to last dive.
I keep saying it's an opportunity. It's a spot, 2nd to last round, where somebody could really, if you will, take the bull, no pun intended, being in Longhorn land, by the horns, and really jump out in front. And we're seeing what looks like a lull in energy. It's not very stimulating at this point.
And the first 3 rounds were fantastic.
Yes.
Not a miss among them. But there have been lots in the last round and a half. We have a round and a half to go. Maria Polyakova, her next to last dive. Now she's the leader. She can put herself in an excellent position to win her first NCAA title with a good dive here.
as she can stay ahead at this point with 6.5s. Oh yeah, she's going to get the 6.5. She's going to, I think, receive 7s and above on this dive. And if she can keep her presence about her, she was second on the 1 meter. In 2017, she was 5th in this event. Didn't dive last year. So this is going to be a terrific dive for her.
Her 7th all-time final, her best finish, second on 1 meter yesterday. She's in position after a good 5th dive. And now Allison Gibson of the host school, the Texas Longhorns, in 7th place. Her next to last dive.
3rd on the 1 meter. Oh, very nice. She did the same dive that Maria Polyakova did. And there's Matt Scoggin giving her a round of applause. And all of her swimming teammates also. That's fabulous. And this should rival what Maria Polyakova did. I think the lines are gorgeous. Matt Scoggin looking for those 8s and above, and he gets them.
Exact same dive, exact same score. 72 on that dive for Gibson as Polyakova. And so she stays 29 points and change shy of the leader with 1 dive left. Now Eloise Belanger, and she trailed it by about 16 points from her UCLA teammate Maria Polyakova.
They're both seniors, and you just can't say enough about the seniors when it comes to collegiate competition, because they go through so much to get to this place. And you see how divers have to poise themselves as they go backwards, using their toes to grip the board as well as their balance to stay with their heels a little bit up.
And again, this is the position, heels dangling off the board of the platform, where Belanger tends to take a lot of time.
Well, that was pretty much warp speed for her.
Yeah, that was great. Took 90 seconds on one platform dive at the Pac-12 Championship.
She's gotten better. Let's
Yes.
put it that way. She's eliminated some of that in her diving, and it's a credit to Tom Sevens, her coach. I see flat feet in that pike position, and then she points her beautiful feet when she does point them, but does not quite get the scores that Gibson and Polyakova got on their back 2.5s.
67.5. She'll lose a little bit of ground to the leader, her teammate Maria Polyakova. Now Alicia Blagg, who had been the leader after 2 rounds, and then a narrow second after 3, but she struggled in her last dive.
So she needs some more 8.5s than 8s on this to go ahead of Brooke Schultz. Brooke Schultz is the defending champion, but dives first in the round. Alicia Blagg dives 7th out of 8, so second to last diver. And very nice jump way above the springboard. The judges do look for the height above the springboard. They judge on overall impression as well as all of those little details, but she's not going to catch up to Brooke Schultz.
And that leaves her 27 points behind Maria Polyakova. Final diver here in the next to last round, Delaney Schnell of Arizona, has been 8th place after every round. The top qualifier this morning. Such a bright future, one of the best recruits in the country coming into last year.
I just think her diving is so dynamic. She's got strength, she's got grace, she's really splendid, majestic almost to watch at times.
And that's her best dive in this competition, 74.2. The leader is Maria Polyakova of UCLA, now a senior. Her final board, she doesn't dive platform very often. This is her chance to win an NCAA title, 1 dive left. 15.5 point lead for Polyakova over Brooke Schultz. Look back at Polyakova's best dive in round 3.
It's her reverse 2.5, and this is where I saw the experience come into play. She was huge up in the air, and she had the presence to find vertical and be clean. And I think it may prove good for her to be diving in the middle of the pack. Not first, not last.
Brooke Schultz will be the first diver in the final round. She's in second place. A good one, and a miss by Polyakova could give the title to Schultz for the second straight year. She's the defending champion. Her last dive right now.
It's a good dive, but traditionally divers save one of their best dives for the last round. And don't expect Polyakova to miss. And she has a bit of a lead at this point. Can she keep her presence about her? Will she be able to just stay in the moment to win this competition? It'll be her first NCAA title. And as a senior, what a thrill for UCLA, Tom Stebbins, and of course, Polyakova.
Now Vicky Zhu of Kansas in 8th place, heading into her last dive.
And she does a full twisting 2.5. It's the same dive that Polyakova is going to do at 3.0 degree of difficulty. That rivals the highest degree of difficulty in this round, which Polyakova will also utilize. The same dive. And Vicky Zhu just didn't have as consistent a contest as she needed to have in order to be one of the top 3 divers.
Now Sarah Bacon of Minnesota, who won the 1 meter competition yesterday in 7th place, heading into her last dive.
That was what I would call an exquisite takeoff. Right on the end of the springboard, stretched from her fingertip to her toes. Lovely, and maybe one of her best dives.
And now Maria Polyakova. Polyakova has been working toward this dive for 5 years at UCLA, the redshirt senior. Here she comes. Polyakova, her last dive, the leader by 15.5 points, heading into this final dive. Her 7th NCAA final, looking for her first win. She
over-rotates. That is a little bit of a miss for Polyakova. The door is barely open, but it's not a big miss. The hurdle was huge, the adrenaline flowing, and I would say anything 7s will secure the win because it's not a big enough miss. And remember, she had more than 10 points on the field.
Not a great dive, but probably enough. A score of 63 that puts her ahead of the second place diver after 5 rounds, Brooke Schultz, by 15.5 points. They carded the exact same score in their final round. Allison Gibson of Texas in 5th place.
Oh, that's a pretty dive. Allison Gibson does a little bit lower degree of difficulty dive. She was in 5th place and needs to go into 3rd place, needs 7s. She will receive that, and we're just going to have to wait and see where she ends up. Will she be on the podium or not? This is a lovely, beautiful final round dive for her.
The only diver who could steal this from Maria Polyakova is her UCLA teammate, Eloise Belanger, who would need the dive of her life, needs to average 9.5s to pass her teammate.
And to go into 2nd place, she needs 8s. Wouldn't be something if the Bruins ended up, the Lady Bruins, in 1st and 2nd. They have been racking up the points for the Bruins in diving. Both Polyakova and Belanger in the final on the 1 meter in the top 8. Well, I think she's going to get 7, 7.5, and if she gets enough 8s, she will go into 2nd place behind Polyakova. She's not going to beat Polyakova. No chance.
66 the dive total. Her scores 7, 7.5, 1 6.5 in there. 378.75. That puts her in third place, and a big hug for the two Bruins teammates as Polyakova, at long last, is going to be an NCAA champion.
And they're both seniors. They're both going to be, it looks like, on the podium, even though Brooke Schultz will separate them on the podium. First and third, possibly, depending on this dive. Oh, Alicia Bragg she just did a fabulous forward 2.5 with 1 twist. Will she get enough 8.5s to go ahead and knock Belanger off the award stand? It's going to be really close. This was the best forward 2.5 with 1 twist. Best dive in the last round that's been done thus far.
Alicia Bragg, she even had a 9 thrown in there, 73.5. Her total 379.8, and she moves ahead of Belanger by 1.05 points.
But slightly behind Brooke Schultz. Delaney Schnell, the top qualifier, having some struggles.
Better things to come for her.
Yes, having some struggles, but there are the UCLA Bruins who just, they were really spot on, and kudos to Maria Polyakova, the senior, who pulled it out, won her first NCAA title, wanted to be on the Olympic team for Russia and wasn't chosen.
What a fantastic moment for Maria Polyakova. With a total of 396, she wins her first NCAA title in what figures to be her final board. Unlikely she would make the platform final tomorrow night. She is a springboard specialist, and she has been on 7 boards in NCAA championship finals in her 4-year career. And she finally has an NCAA title. Maria Polyakova of UCLA. Hey, ESPN's coverage of the NCAA Swimming and Diving Championships continues tomorrow at 6 o'clock Eastern, 3 o'clock Pacific. For more information, go to ncaa.com, the official online home for all 90 NCAA championships. And we have another event coming up tonight, the 200 medley relay, before we close it down and look ahead toward day 4. But in the meantime, look back at this diving competition. Polyakova has been around for so long. We first saw her in a 3-meter competition way back in 2015 when she finished 4th, and here she is, 4th the next year, 5th 2 years ago. Last year she redshirted, and this year finally is the champion. Such
a great collegiate diver, always scoring points, always in position in the top 8, and she's a linguistics major, which means she's no dummy. She is an incredibly smart woman who doesn't want to see her diving career end right now. She wants to stay at UCLA and train in California. Will that be possible? I don't know. That might be the question. Can she stick around and train in Southern California for the 2020 Olympics? Because she got passed over in 2016.
Well, it's Polyakova who wins it. The team title is between Stanford and Cal. Neither had a diver in the championship final for 3-meter, but they will both be in the championship final of the 200 medley relay, which is to come as Cal looks to win their 3rd relay in this competition. It'll be the 200 medley relay, and then tomorrow night the final relay. The final event of the meet will be the 400 freestyle relay. Maria Polyakova of UCLA at long last is an NCAA champion, and she's with Kat LaRocca.
Maria, congratulations. You really pulled away in that 5th round, but it was your 3rd round dive, that gainer 2.5, that was your best dive. Can you take us through it?
Yeah, I mean, it's usually one of my best dives in my list, so I just did the one that I can, you know.
Well, you look steady most of the time. Some other divers had a few misses, especially in round 4. How aware are you of the standings and what the other divers are doing throughout the event?
I usually don't look at other people. I just try to focus on myself and don't even look at the scoreboard.
Well, it seemed to work. Congratulations.
Thank you.
What a great moment for Maria Polyakova. And you talk about the efforts that a senior has to make, and she's a redshirt senior, so she's been here a long time, and remarkable, Cynthia, she was able to get it.
Yes, and she and Tom Stebbins worked so well together. It would be a shame if she couldn't stay in the United States and train for 2020, and of course the Russians would have to choose her to go, so that it will remain a question, but she is going in the right direction with some beautiful diving.
Maria Polyakova of UCLA, an NCAA champion, she takes the 3-meter competition.